I'm Jordan Rayner, and this is the Word Before Work. Today we're reading from Daniel 6, 26 through 27. Here's what it says. I issue a decree that in every part of my kingdom people must fear and revere the God of Daniel, for he is the living God and he endures forever. His kingdom will not be destroyed. His dominion will never end. He rescues and he saves. He performs signs and wonders in the heavens and on the earth. He has rescued Daniel from the power of the lions. The context of today's passage is what makes it remarkable and worthy of particular attention. Not long after King Darius issued a decree that, quote, anyone who prays to any god or human being, end quote, other than him would be thrown into the lion's den. Here, Darius is commanding that all his people must fear and revere the God of Daniel. What in the world led to this extraordinary change? Well, most obviously, the miracle of God protecting Daniel from the man-eating lions of the lion's den. But as I hope you're seeing throughout this series, there's a second miracle that likely led to Darius's conversion. And that is the miracle of Daniel's extraordinary work. As we saw a couple of devotionals ago, one of King Darius's predecessors found Daniel, quote, 10 times better than all the magicians and enchanters in his whole kingdom, end quote. And thus drafted Daniel into the king's service. This was Daniel's first job at the palace when he was just a teenager. Now, roughly 5 decades later, it seems as if King Darius shared the exact same opinion of Daniel. In Daniel 6, verse 3, we learn that, quote, Daniel so distinguished himself among the administrators and the satraps by his exceptional qualities that King Darius planned to set Daniel over his entire kingdom, end quote. So distinguished was Daniel that when he did disobey King Darius's law, Daniel 6:14 tells us that the king was distressed. He was determined to rescue Daniel and made every effort until sundown to save him. It's pretty remarkable to see a king fighting this hard to save a servant who broke his own law. After all, Daniel 6:1 tells us that the king had 120 other administrators in his service. But something was different about Daniel. So exceptional was Daniel's work that the king made a fool of himself, fighting to save Daniel's life right up until the 11th hour. One of the most notable characteristics of Netflix's company culture is what they call the keeper test. In an effort to keep their talent density high, Netflix managers are encouraged to consider whether or not they would fight to keep a member of their team if that team member were to come to them tomorrow and say they were quitting. Today's passage shows us that Daniel is the ultimate passer of the keeper test. It also serves as a beautiful reminder of how the ministry of excellence can be used to lead unbelievers like King Darius to the Lord. Here's my question for you as we wrap up this series. Would you pass the keeper test in your work? Would your boss, your customers, or your investors fight as hard as King Darius fought for Daniel if they knew your demise was at hand? If so, press on and be encouraged by Daniel's example that excellent work can lead people to a knowledge of the one true God. Today's devotional only scratches the surface of how God's word connects to our work. If you want to go deeper, sign up for my free 20-day devotional called The Word Before Work Foundations at twbwfoundations.com. These email devotionals are designed to help you gain a rich understanding of the biblical narrative of work, how exactly your work matters for eternity and what those truths mean for how we ought to work today. You can sign up right now, again, for free at twbwfoundations.com.